morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting. It's lovely to be able to speak to you all, albeit we can't see you face to face quite yet. Basically, this morning, what I would like to do is a couple of things. The primary purpose of the talk is to give you some background as to what is going to be happening over the next fortnight with regard to return to school arrangements. And we'll go into that in a little more detail quite shortly. Firstly, however, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for all of your support and your patience and good humour and goodwill over the past 2 months, which has been hugely appreciated by everyone at Chobham. We have first of all really valued the practical support you have given your children in making sure they are in lessons, virtual lessons, and making sure they are completing the work set. That has been invaluable. I know how busy you are, and I know how much of a strain that can be upon family life, but you've done an amazing job in keeping your children well in touch with their learning, not just marginally in touch with their learning, but they are in the vast majority in a really good place for their return, because they have been in their lessons and they've kept up with what their teachers have been asking them to do. And that's a tribute to the students, and it's also a tribute to parents. So we are massively grateful. And the second thing that I would like to really emphasize in terms of our gratitude to you is the goodwill you have shown and the patience you have shown, and indeed the compliments that you have fed back to myself and to other members of staff who have helped you out and delivered lessons for your children during the past 2 months. That feedback is really appreciated, and it has really helped us and our motivation during the period of the lockdown. So for all of those things, thank you very much indeed. Now, there has been some welcome news this week, as I know you're all aware, on the return to school, which is from, I emphasize the word from, because it won't be on for everybody, but from the 8th of March. We're going to need to be patient, I'm afraid, for another couple of weeks until we get all of the students back, but we will accomplish that as quickly as possible, and I'll say a little more about that in a moment. Now, there is an opportunity on your screen for you to post any questions you may have today, and if you do so, we will answer them as quickly as possible. But I would emphasize that I'll cover quite a little bit of detail in this talk. You will then get a letter from me on Monday morning, which goes into things in more detail and gives times and dates for return in a written form, so you can remember them and put them into your calendars. If you have questions, please, it would be helpful if you can leave them until after you get the letter on Monday. And if I haven't said it and it isn't in the letter, then please do get in touch, because I know there will be things that I don't say and aren't in the letter, but there will be a lot coming out to you over the next few days. So our objective is to get all of our students back into school as soon as possible after the 8th of March. This will mean that we have to stagger the start of the return to school. We cannot have everybody in together on the same day. The reason for that is we have to follow the government's requirement that we offer a COVID test to everybody before they return to the classroom, or as they return to the classroom. It will be on the day of their return, and then we follow that up with 2 further COVID tests in the next following few days. I'll say a little bit more about that in just a moment. So in order to get everyone tested as they come into school, we are going to have to stagger the return to school. In order to get ahead of things before the 8th of March, we are going to invite years 10 and 11 students to come in a week today on Friday, the 5th of March. Parents of students in those year groups will be given a time slot, and those students will come in at that time only for their test, and then they'll go home, and then on the Monday they can come and go straight into lessons. On Monday the 8th, and remember please that everyone, this will be written down for you, so by all means note it down now, but you don't need to remember this, you'll be sent all this information. On Monday the 8th, year 12 and 13 will come in. Tuesday the 9th, year 8 and 9, and then on Wednesday year 7 will come in. And so by Wednesday morning, the 10th of March, everyone will be back to the academy, and that will be a full-time permanent return for everybody. So we hope as quickly as possible to get everybody into school. Now I'd like to say a little bit about testing and then a little bit about lessons. Now, first of all, another big thank you. Most of our parents, which is great, have given consent for their children to be tested for COVID on their return to school. Now, I know this is a topical issue and in some quarters a controversial issue. The view of the school endorses the view of the government and of the Harris Federation, of which, as you know, we are a member school, that in our view, testing is a positive thing, it is a good thing, it gives protection to the person being tested. But in the case of children who are at very little risk from COVID themselves, as we know, it gives protection to the families of those young people and to those adults they encounter as well. So testing, we take the view, on balance, is a positive and good thing for our students, which creates little or virtually no risk for them and is of potentially significant benefit to those around them. And by testing students, two things are accomplished. One is those around them, adults with whom they come into contact in particular, are rendered safer, and two, there is less chance of them missing school. So they are the overarching reasons why we endorse testing and why we are so grateful to all of you who have given your consent for your children to be tested. However, if you have not given consent and there is a reason why you wish not to withhold your consent, that is fine. That is okay, and your child will still return to school as normal. So whilst we wish as many of our students to be tested as possible, there is no barrier or prohibition on a student coming back to school if you as parents do not wish them to be tested. So just to be clear, everyone is back whether you've given your consent or not. If you have given your consent to the testing regime, our thanks. There will be 3 tests within the first couple of weeks back. Once the first test is out of the way, the others will be arranged in school time and will have no impact or external impact, certainly on you as parents. After that, those parents who have given consent for testing, your children will be given 2 home test kits each week, which again are optional for you to use if you wish, to chart their progress and ensure their well-being and the well-being of those around them through regular testing. We don't have full details of how that arrangement is going to work yet. We don't have the tests in school yet, but the government announcement on return to school earlier in this week made very clear that there would be ongoing home testing available for those students whose parents wish to take advantage of it, and we will be issuing the tests accordingly in due course. So that is what will be happening with testing over the next few weeks. We will be retaining all of the safety measures with regard to COVID precautions that we had in place prior to the current lockdown beginning, in terms of our queuing arrangements in school, our social distancing arrangements, staggered starts and ends to lessons. All of those measures, I can reassure you, will remain in place. The wearing of face masks remains a strong recommendation, and again, we were very fortunate to have your support in ensuring that virtually every student, apart from those with medical exemptions, wore a mask before the current lockdown began. That will be the case upon return, so please ensure that your students, your children, have masks with them on their return to school. And the additional condition that has been placed upon mask wearing in the new regime of rules is that masks will also be worn in most lessons, not in subjects such as PE, but in pretty much everything else, masks will be worn in class too. So please, when your children return to school, if you could make sure they have a mask, and it would be really helpful if you could make sure they have a spare as well. And we will be ensuring that those students, that all of our students are supported in wearing their masks around the building, again for the benefit of both themselves and others, which is really important to us. So moving on slightly to talk briefly about learning. I mentioned earlier our gratitude at all you have been doing to support your children in their learning. We are in a good position with a week to go until students begin to return, in that most of our students have been engaging brilliantly with their learning, and because of that, they have kept up with their learning. We are not expecting, in the vast majority of cases, to see students with significant deficits in their learning when they return to school. Of course, some students have struggled more than others. Some students have struggled with technology, others with the habits and routines of working from home every day, and that's perfectly understandable. So we by no means are being in any way complacent, and we will look at how every child has progressed and assess their progress on our return. But I think you can be confident that your children will make a good return to school, and that we are very, very confident as a school that any gaps in learning can be made up, and that we can make rapid progress with our students on their return. There have been in the media, I'm sure you have seen, a variety of views on how students have been affected by lockdown. And I have to say, on a personal level, I think there have been a couple of quite doom-laden forecasts about the long-term effects of lockdown on our students' academic potential and learning. I don't subscribe to that view. I think we have at Chobham some highly talented, very resilient young people, and I am very confident that once they are back in school and we put support in place for them, and they are back with their teachers in their lessons, with their friends, learning in a productive and positive way, I am very confident that we will make up those learning gaps quickly, and I am very confident that the long-term effects on our students will be minimal, if in most cases any at all. So your support in making sure we prepare the ground for that progress on return is really, really important. With that in mind, it would be very tempting, and indeed almost a natural response, to take our collective feet off the pedal next week in terms of pushing the students to learn. A very natural tendency to say, there's only a few days to go till you're back in school with your teachers. Why don't we just take it a little bit easier this week? We had a staff meeting earlier this morning when I spoke to the staff here at school and said, I really don't want that to happen. I don't want all of the great work that we've done collectively as a school community to regress, to go backwards next week, because we decide it's only a few days left let's take it a little bit easy. We are in a week of term time next week. It's a learning week, and if we can keep up the momentum, the rhythm of learning that we have exhibited during this term so far, it will really help us when the students come back to school from the 8th of March. We will be able to get much more quickly into routines and into classes where we are continuing the learning that has been done at home, if everybody keeps this going for one more week. Now, I know that's a challenge, and I know there will be temptations, but I would really seek your support, everybody listening, parents and students, to keep this going for one more week. As there will be a slightly staggered return to school, it will be the case that some of you are still learning from home for a couple of days in the week commencing 8th of March before you come back, and we will ensure you have learning to do right up until the point that you're back in school. That will be year 7, 8 and 9. So make sure you keep up with that, please, everybody, until you're back in. Now, the final issue I just want to touch on this morning, everyone, and thank you for your patience, it's really much appreciated, is just to say a few words which hopefully will be of interest to everybody, but are specifically aimed at the year 11 and 13 parents and students listening in this morning. Yesterday, we had an announcement on the arrangements for your assessment this summer. We already knew that GCSEs and A-levels had been cancelled. That was publicised some time ago. What we didn't know until yesterday was how you were going to be assessed. Now, there's good news here, but we need to be careful, and again, we need to be cautious in our response. The good news is that teachers will be assessing you this summer. That is good news for you, and that teachers will be able to assess you on the work you have done, and we will be able to focus on the work we know that you've done. One of the reasons for this decision is we know what you've done, and in every school that's a little bit different at this stage. So that's all positive news. However, there is really no room for any complacency, because I think, again, it might be a natural response to say, teacher assessment, wow, that's what happened last year, everyone got better grades, that's going to happen to me. It's not quite that simple. We as teachers have a professional responsibility, as you would expect, to assess you fairly, both for your own benefit and because of those around you, in terms of the students who are working alongside you, and because of our professional integrity. This exercise will be very professionally and objectively done. There will be external monitoring of what teachers do. It won't just be a case of teachers awarding grades. You will be assessed in order to give us evidence to make grade judgments. The mocks that you will be doing on your return in the week commencing 22nd of March will still happen and will still be really important. So whilst you are going to have teacher assessment, and whilst it is still going to be teachers who decide upon your grades, and whilst it will be the case that you will be assessed only on what you have studied, the bar is still high and the grades need to be earned and moderated. And the key piece of information for year 11 and 13, which I just want to make sure everyone gets this morning, is we cannot award a grade unless a student has demonstrated that they are working at that level. Students will not be given their predictions. It's much more rigorous than that. So when students come back to school, and they'll come back, as we understand it, for some time until probably up to around mid-June. So there's going to be a 3-month period during which you will be asked to demonstrate that you are working at a particular grade level before we can award it. And that will be your challenge, to make sure that you can demonstrate to your teachers the grades which you feel you wish to achieve. And if you can demonstrate those grades consistently, then that will be in your interests and will enable us to be much more positive and secure in the grades we award you. So the challenge for years 11 and 13 is not diminished. It's a different kind of challenge. It's probably, hopefully indeed in some ways, a unique challenge, and I don't think any other year group coming along is going to have it quite like this. I'm bound to say to you, years 11 and 13 parents and students this morning, it's probably a greater challenge than last year, where the grades were much more given on the basis of what we knew when the students went off in March, and there was no more assessment that could be done because they didn't come back. So it's a challenge you need to take seriously. However, I am extremely confident that if you do take that challenge seriously, you will get some great results this year. I think there is a lot in our favour that if you play your part, your teachers will be able to give you some very, very good results, but they need to be earned. So, to summarise, we'll see you all back, students, week commencing 8th of March. Year 10 and 11, we'll see in for their tests next Friday. We will send you on Monday more detail about the exact dates and times of your return and the requirements in terms of bringing a mask to school, ensuring you have your equipment all sorted out, being ready for learning on your return. Keep it all going next week because that's in everybody's interests, and I think we will see the benefits in our return. If you have questions, please let us know. As I said, it would be helpful if you wait until you see the letter on Monday and then let us know if you have any remaining questions. And I'm really, and I can say this on behalf of all the staff as well, everyone listening this morning, we are really keen and anticipatory and looking forward to seeing our students back in school en masse very soon. So thanks for listening this morning, and I hope to talk to you again very shortly. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.